Welcome in to DRV PNK Stadium. I'm Kaylin Kyle, joined alongside Thomas Wrong and Chris Whittingham. Guys, first and foremost, we are Pitchside.
Yes.
I feel like we've been within to Miami. Well, this is our second season, all three of us, and we haven't been this close to the grass, and it feels so good. We're all COVID tested. We're still social distancing a little bit, but fans are in the stands. Everyone's watching us at the moment, so we are in the hot seat. The guys were in training yesterday, and Phil Neville had to say this before the match.
For the benefit of everybody, I think we are obviously in the second game of the week. We've still got injuries to Robinson, Figal. Leardom is 50-50, Carranza is still 50-50. We're taking it day by day. So Leardom and Carranza are still probably got to get through the training today to have any hope of being on the bench or starting tomorrow, play minutes within the game tomorrow. We do hope that Nico and Robbie are going to be back within the next week or so we're quite confident and we're pleased with their progress. I suppose my initial thoughts, probably the first time I was probably a little bit emotional on Sunday after the game because I thought it was a great game of football, I really did. And I just felt hard done by in terms of some of the decisions, particularly later decisions, but looking back, I stand by every word. I thought we was unlucky not to win the game with the decisions that I thought should have gone our way. So other than that, looking forward to the game tomorrow night. Montreal, I think, have been really impressive. I've watched them every game, obviously, because they're on our doorstep and they're sharing the training ground. So I think tomorrow night's going to be another difficult game for us where we're going to have to perform. I've showed the same kind of energy, determination, togetherness that we showed against Atlanta. And we're really looking forward to the game.
And one thing about Phil is his energy is so infectious, and you can see it with the players on the pitch. Now, Thomas, he alluded to a couple points. Obviously, jumping back to that Atlanta game, hard done by, quote unquote, and he's standing by his words with those two big plays. Do you think that there was two missed opportunities in that match?
Absolutely. I think it was very clear to everybody, be it in the radio booth, Chris and I, be it on TV with you guys as well, be it at home for viewers, in order for them to either overturn or not give a penalty in both occasions. Handball, obviously, but more so, Uola versus Brett Guzan late in that game. That was a deserved penalty. We all know that, but you're going to move on as well. So Phil's normally always very good, just like Stikan. Doesn't get involved with the referee, but I can understand with the emotion and the impact it has on the game, obviously, that he's somewhat disturbed and would mention that correctly so.
Now, Chris, there's massive games this week. Obviously, fixture after fixture. Just played on the weekend, now playing tonight, and then play again on the weekend. Big injuries with this club. What do they have to do tonight without some main players for this game?
Well, I think it comes down to really the star men who are still in the team. Blaise Matuidi will start today, and he'll be in that midfield after taking a little bit of a rib injury midweek. It's got to come down to Matuidi, Pizarro, and Higuain up top playing better. I mean, we can talk about the referee decisions as much as we like, but Gonzalo Higuain missed a couple of chances in that game as well against Atlanta that he could have had to score. Rodolfo Pizarro struggled after moving from the left to get into central midfield. Can't really blame Matuidi too much, given that he came out with an injury. But when your depth pieces are out, when the pieces that are meant to fill in the squad, and Kelvin Leerdam, he's on the bench tonight, but he won't start from right back. Victor Ulloa will give it a go again as a makeshift right back. And I thought he did reasonably well in that position, but it really comes down to your star men performing and putting it past the side in Montreal that don't really have too many of that star men. Romel Kyoto kind of serves as that top player. He had 8 goals and 6 assists a year ago, but Gonzalo Higuain's a better forward than Romel Kyoto is, and they have to outperform their best players.
But we're looking at Montreal, obviously, Thomas, and we're looking at some of the results. Obviously, they're coming off a loss, but 3 wins on the trot. Started off really strong, especially with a new manager. Defensively tough to break down. So for this front 3, what do they have to do to get behind when they do set up in that 4-5 through the midfield?
Yeah, interesting you say that. We're at the 5th game right now, and 3 of our opponents, including this one, all had new head coaches. Heinz at Atlanta, obviously. The Galaxy with the former Toronto coach, Greg Vanny, and now today with Bill Nancy, who has surprised some people, I think, in the way his team has performed and bought into his philosophy, which is at times a high press. It's hard counter-attacking when they are deep, and they got some speed up front that can hurt you, obviously. It's a different look also that Phil has seen in his team over these first 4 games, because you're playing against a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it. So very interesting to see what kind of adjustments Phil Neville makes for this massive game that potentially could you, for one night or maybe for 2, put you in first place. That's what you're fighting for. Last year we went 0-5, by the way. Now we're in our 5th game and a chance to go into first, which is pretty amazing if you look at the turnaround. Agree with Chris. Your 3 DPs need to be stand up and accounted for.
Now, obviously, you guys have been covering the team for the first season, now in for the second season. What is the biggest shift you've seen since Phil Neville's come in?
I think it's in the vital moments, not giving away goals from half chances when you mostly played well. There were times last year under Diego Alonso where I thought they were playing reasonably well for large periods, but then they reserve it to a shell. And the second they gave away a chance, it was a goal. And I actually thought after Joseph Martinez opened the scoring for Atlanta on Sunday that Miami were reasonably strong defensively. I think that base is much stronger. Gregory has really helped in that central midfield, and he's starting to kick on and play better. So in terms of differences, I would definitely say it's the manner in which they're defending. They have more solidity, and now it seems like they do have an attacking idea that's not just hit crosses. It's largely in transition, and TR, I'm sure you can kind of speak to that more, but the way that they create opportunities is more on the break, playing balls in behind. Lewis Morgan's getting into good chances. Just in general, they're creating opportunities way more than they did a year ago.
And just touching on your defensive point, they do have 5 goals against this season. So defensively, a little bit better, but still getting conceded on. What's the reason for that, Thomas?
Well, I mean, you look right now, a makeshift right back in Yola. Greg Shea, your utility player, has played 3 or 4 different positions last year, fills in as a left back, which he really isn't, quite frankly. You got another center back in Sawcross who's done well to his organization. So now, again, it's all about chemistry. First, it's Leerdam for 2 games. Then it's Jovan Jones. So that's not easy. And thank God I think they have somebody like Sawcross there because his verbal communication is so good. He made LGP and Figal when they played better, I thought. But still, and Chris is absolutely right, I look at that goal against Matuidi again, allow somebody to get away from him. Sawcross, which I think needs to read that, needs to step close and don't allow the turn. And these little things we get punished for, whereas we in open play created some. But going back to Higuain, who hasn't scored, by the way, in 14, I think, in open play, that's the difference at the end of the day. We get punished for small mistakes, and we are not capitalizing on some mistakes or some chances that we've created.
And you touched on some key players brought in the offseason, and so did you. And I want to jump to, because I completely agree with you. I absolutely love him in the midfield. Gregory, talk to me about him. What does he add to this Inter Miami side?
Well, first off, just a base of covering in defense. I think Matuidi probably needs that in a central midfield partner, and Will Trapp is just a different kind of player. I think Will Trapp is a great MLS central midfielder. He's just a different kind of player. So Gregory has so much industry, but I think what we really saw from him in the last match against Atlanta was a charging run through the middle. And there was huge spaces in the middle of the pitch because Gabriel Heinze adopted some of the Bielsa 1v1 tactics. And so there was these massive gaps, and Greg is like, all right, if you're going to afford this to me, I'm just going to take it. And he was able to get into good positions. But just so much of the game comes down to, can you get close to opposition in central midfield? Are you pressing in central midfield? Are you winning that area? And Gregory, as the season has gone along, has more and more grown comfortable in that position.
And to add to that real quick, Mihalovic today is one hell of a matchup for Gregory as well. So it's important to Matuidi if Gregory takes off, which I like what he's done in the last game, being able to penetrate and powerful running with and without the ball to get places that Matuidi really needs to understand to sit in, because in transition, this team goes direct and has some pace.
And I think that's what we've seen. Montreal been so successful early on in the season that we haven't seen from that Montreal side. Getting on the score sheet, breaking early, breaking down midfields, that ball in behind, that quick counterattacking football.
You look at Toy, you look at Kyoto, those are guys that can burn you, and Toy's got 2, I think, of the year.
And especially with players like Brekshay in Iowa playing that fullback role to have that central midfield compactness. I want to touch on the big players, the players that need to show up more consistently. So I want to start with Pizarro. What for you just hasn't been there week in and week out?
So I will say, in fairness to him, they prepared him last week as a wide player. And Phil Neville was talking to us about how that's probably the best week of training that he's had. He looked comfortable in that
Which, by
area.
the way, will start again today, Chris.
Right, exactly. Jay Chapman will play in that kind of number 10 role and allow Pizarro to play on that wide area. But ultimately, it comes down to the chance creation and the decision-making in the vital moment, in my view. For me, it's always a touch too many, it's a turn too many, it's a feint too many. And I think the more that he's able to just play direct passes into Gonzalo Higuain and directly for himself go and chase his own chances, the better he is. But that's just that's the style of player that he is. So you kind of have to adjust around it.
And I'm still a little bit not worried, but flabbergasted that Jay Chapman plays at 10. Is Federico Higuain the better option, even if it's through 70 minutes?
Park that. I want to ask you. I want to ask you that, but we have to take a quick break because that's something I do want to dive into a little bit more. Stick around because we got much more pregame coverage after this.
We've learned to savor the moments that
Showtime
will
at
always.
AutoNation. Every car and truck is priced to go. Go shop your favorite vehicles now. Drive with amazing low payments or go with low prices on new cars and trucks. Plus, every vehicle we sell is sanitized.
What are you waiting for? Let's go!
Go to AutoNation now or shop AutoNation.com.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
No matter what you drive, you can turn it into cash now at AutoNation. It's as easy as A, B, C. Any AutoNation store, bring in your car, check on the spot. It's that simple. We'll buy your car whether you buy ours or not. You'll get a top dollar offer in as fast as 30 minutes and a check you can deposit right away. Sell your car fast and safely at over 300 AutoNation stores or AutoNation.com.
Today tastes like a fresh start, like a hot spot. Tastes like a head in the clouds, and like 2 feet off the ground. Today tastes like a Sunday ritual, and it never tasted this good.
Welcome back to the AutoNation pregame show with myself, Kaylin Kyle, Thomas Rung, Chris Whittingham, the best looking two men in this stadium. They
Thank
paid me to say that.
Taylor, hi,
They
we
paid me
love
to
you.
say that because
Oh, Canada.
we do get that after tonight because Inter Miami is taking on Montreal at 7:30. So let's take a look into the
Look at
lineup.
Rudy for the good guys.
I've dressed
I
in
know,
pink,
I
Thomas.
know,
Come
that,
on,
I
come
know,
on.
I know.
All
Love
right,
it.
let's dive into Inter Miami lineup first, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the lineup. Obviously, no surprises in goal. As expected, we were training yesterday, Chris and I, and LGP came up a little bit with a nut, but he's starting with Sawgrass, which is normal. Obviously, out wide again, they have to manipulate a little bit. Brett Shea on the left, Yol on the right, and then pretty much that same, two guys in the middle with Gregory and McQuitty. Jay Chapman in front of him, which is interesting with the number 10, the young Toronto kid, by the way, Canadian kid as well. Pizarro on the left, Morgan on the right, and Higuain as the number 9. So it's a starting 11.
What's your key to this for them to win tonight?
Great pressure. Chris and I talked about it yesterday because Montreal, especially because it feels pretty decent, will come hard initially.
And they're used to playing. They're obviously training here on the pitch.
Correct.
The Heat's not going to play an advantage for
Nope.
Miami
So
tonight.
they press normally very hard. And we, through the UL, as Greg Shays and the Saw crosses, can we find Gregory and McQuitty in midfield or even further up the pitch without losing the ball in bad spots? That's one. Watch transition defense because of their speed as well. Create more an open play at the end of the day and finishing. That's obviously.
And Chris, what do you think about this starting 11 for Inter Miami?
Well, I find fascinating that they put in a lot on a Sunday afternoon in the heat of South Florida, and 72 hours later, you're fielding the exact same starting 11. So the fact that I think Phil Neville probably feels like he's at his absolute limit in terms of squad rotation, given the injuries. I'm not sure you look at a player on the bench and go, well, that player is deserving of a start, at least with this match. Because I think one of the things we haven't really discussed is when you look at this match and then the next 3, away at Cincinnati, away at Chicago, home at DC United. Those next 3 are 3 of the bottom 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. Montreal were not among the more fancy teams coming into the season. If you're kind of looking up for an opportunity to pick up points, give yourself some breathing room in the Eastern Conference, you kind of have to win 3 or 4 of these matches so that you're in good standing when you get into the more business end of your season.
We've seen a lot of injuries. We've seen a lot of games. Not a lot of rotation because it just doesn't have the depth at the moment because there is a lot of injuries at the moment. What do you do, Thomas? You're one former manager. You played player at the highest level, coached in the MLS. What do you do in a match like this? Do you come out defensive or do you come out with your foot on the gas pedal? Go for it.
I think you want to go for it initially, without a doubt, at home, where by the way, you've lost against the Galaxy, obviously, so it's important to get 3 points today and first place at stake. So I would think that Phil Neville's energy, which he showed to us yesterday after training, will transfer to this team as well. The problem again is, are they good enough yet to say, this is our game, this is our rhythm, and you're going to chase us? They haven't proven that. Outpossessed in all 4 games, but Can they find some rhythm? Can they make the game a little bit ugly early on and maybe create, as they did against Atlanta, 2 great chances, by the way, early on. And if they go in, it becomes a different game. So I like the front foot theory, and then the game will settle in. KK, you know that. You've played that level as well, and will have his ups and downs.
And the temperature right now is actually gorgeous.
Brilliant.
This is the perfect night for football. And it does look like we may get a little bit of a shower, but I do want to talk to you because we touched on it before we went to break. Obviously, we've just gone over the starting 11, but the bench. Talk to me about Federico Higuain. Would you start him? Does he deserve a start, or?
You would think based on performances he deserves a start. Chris made an interesting point, and you can talk about that a little bit later. The coaching staff, the medical staff see something with an older player, and they are managing him for the whole season, quite frankly. There might be 2 or 3 guys in that same position. He doesn't have the luxury right now to rest Higuain because Carranza isn't there, Robinson aren't there. I'm talking about Higuain maybe when you're up 60 minutes. So he's pushing a lot out of that starting 11 that started again, due to the fact that Figal isn't there, Robinson isn't there, Carranza isn't there. He's missing some really important bodies. I like to think that Federico, regardless if you're up or down, if you're up, he can keep possession. If you're down, he is more of a classic 10 than we have obviously out of all of them, because he always looks to play forward and get the ball behind people as well, as he showed. And then I'm telling you, he makes a hard run for that Morgan that gets inside and scored a goal as well. So he brings a lot with him without the ball. I expect him to see again, and I expect him to get some playing time. Pretty sure an interesting point with the Gold Cup.
Yeah, so you have Rodolfo Pizarro on the side, and likely he would at the very least be picked for the CONCACAF Nations League, which will be coming early June in Denver. Those are important games for Mexico. He's always been called into the senior team. And then there's a Gold Cup this summer. I'm not sure if Tata Martino will want to call in the European-based players into that group. So it's possible he's playing in 2 summer tournaments. That's 6 or 7 weeks where MLS games are going to be happening, and you need a player to fill in that number 10. The other dynamic I would say as well is, okay, so let's say he does start, and you're 0-0 after 60 minutes. Who are you bringing on off the bench to change the game? Federico Higuain changes the game when he comes on. I understand you want that influence from the start, but I think one of the things you have to look internally is, can we get that influence from the start? For the players who normally start, can they raise their level a little bit so that you're not necessarily needing to bring on Higuain to change the game?
And I think as a former player, that is one of the most frustrating things as a player, because you're performing when you're getting put into a match, and I hate to call it, but that super sub.
Yeah.
It's so hard because you want to start for the team, you know what you can add to the team, but I do like what you said, when that game does start to open up, you can play in between those tight parts, but could he do it for 90 minutes? I think so, but again, that's why I'm not a manager. I'm sitting here between a rows between 2 swords. Now, talk to me about the back line of this Inter Miami. Obviously, there's been loads of injuries, haven't been consistent back four, but LGT has been the consistent. What are your thoughts of him?
He's been absolutely great, and where he's gotten better in some areas is his emotions. Last year, he got away from it early on, and he got him together. 2 great competitors. I love these guys, by the way. But now with some Sawgrass gives him a aura of stability, and all of a sudden his tackling is more within his range, doesn't give away that many fouls, and as I said again, doesn't get red cards. So he's been very good due to the fact that Sawgrass is giving him a calming influence.
So we've just touched on a little bit of the back line. I want to touch on Miguel, but when we come back, so stay tuned because we're not done talking about that back four. All this next.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
No matter what you drive, you can turn it into cash now at AutoNation. It's as easy as A, B, C. Any AutoNation store, bring in your car, check on the spot. It's that simple. We'll buy your car whether you buy ours or not. You'll get a top dollar offer in as fast as 30 minutes and a check you can deposit right away. Sell your car fast and safely at over 300 AutoNation stores or AutoNation.com.
Today tastes like a fresh start. Like a hot spot. Tastes like a head in the clouds. And like 2 feet off the ground. Today tastes like a Sunday ritual. And it never tasted this good.
time at AutoNation. Every car and truck is priced to go. Go shop your favorite vehicles now. Drive with amazing low payments or go with low prices on new cars and trucks. Plus, every vehicle we sell is sanitized.
What are you waiting for? Let's go.
Go to AutoNation now or shop AutoNation.com.
Welcome into the pregame show with myself, Kaylin Kyle, Thomas Rung, Chris Whittingham. Keys to the match brought to you by Ford. Chris, I'm going to start with you. What is Inter Miami's offensive keys to the match for this one?
I do think it's a little bit linked to the defensive side of things.
Take it all then. Take it all.
Well, because Montreal are a team that do like to press. TR mentioned that in the open, and I do think that those opportunities are going to be there in behind. Can you get at this back three, which tonight is Struna, Camacho, and Miller? I think there's some opportunities, particularly on Struna's side, to hit him for pace. You look at, for example, that flank that Lewis Morgan will be going down. It looks like Lassi Lapalainen is going to be on that left-hand side. I think Lewis Morgan has a real chance to have a lot of joy tonight and create some opportunities running in behind because, look, so far, Inter Miami this season, last in MLS in possession. They like to hit on the break. They like to hit in transition moments. Lewis Morgan will have a chance.
But still scoring 5 goals. Absolutely love it. And Lewis Morgan is the key to that. Defensively, Thomas, talk to me. What is the keys for Inter Miami? I know we touched on a little bit of it.
Right. It's really important how they manipulate their line, defensive line, which is the last line, starting with Higuain being the first line, back to the first line. The higher you are, the more you have to have balance and cover because of the directness and speed of that front three. We talked about Toy and Kyoto. So that's important. Secondly, when we regain possession, there is pressure. Can we play through pressure, maintain a rhythm and a balance and a possession going forward? And in the final third, being more creative in terms of chance creation and then finishing, obviously. And that's where the Pizarros, the Morgans of the world, and also Jay Chapman, who's a big question mark right now. How is he going to perform in the number 10 position underneath Higuain? We might be surprised, quite frankly.
And I think what Jay Chapman adds is that work ethic. You see it in training, you see it on the pitch, you see it week in and week out. He's there to fight for not only the starting 11 spot, but to fight to be on this team.
When I was at the academy at Toronto, he came through the youth academy as well and went to the first team, so I know his skills at very best. And that might be his best position, out of the 6, 8, and the 10.
And it was really cool. Forgive me. It was really cool to hear Phil Neville kind of talking about with Jay Chapman. He's got a manager who believes in him now, talking about himself almost. And I think Jay Chapman in his press conference is breath of fresh air, great mentality. And he kind of challenged me like, hey, do you want to be a squad player or do you want to start? And it's really cool. He's been rewarded with this opportunity to get to go from a really important position on the pitch.
I think I love that you touched on that because as a player, the key is having someone that does support you, does give you that second opportunity and doesn't really just push you aside. And we just need you a utility player in training.
And you have both in your career. You speak volumes about the Canadian national team coach, am I correct, in terms of being so good in guiding and
managing players.
Yes.
You speak about Zinedine Zidane. We've seen it in La Liga. Same with John Herdman. Now he's with the men's coach, men's Canadian team. He was with the women's, and it was the same thing.
Real quick, difference between coaching in Europe, where you were, and in the United States, where you played as well.
I couldn't understand them in Europe. It was always a foreign language. I needed a glass of vino to understand it. I want to talk to you guys about Figal. Obviously, carrying a little bit of a knock, but we've seen him in that center back role. Now, obviously, Shawcross has come in, getting adapted to this South Florida heat. Do you guys prefer Figal out on that wing or out on the fullback position or more center back role?
Based on his performance, which was Philadelphia away, when due to injuries he was pushed in the position and was the dynamo going forward, creating a goal, forcing a foul as well that leads to the header that we win with the Higuain brothers, obviously. That might be his future position, and a position really that needs to be filled. Leerdam is okay, but I think Figal right now, what he's shown, and he was supposed to start when he got injured in the warm-up in the right back position with Sawgrass and LGP and then Jovan Jones on the left side. So that's his future probably, and will strengthen his team tremendously. I think it's a big loss, not in regards to center back, but a loss on that right side.
And do you think, obviously, with his skill set, it helps kind of pull together that front line? Because we've seen the inconsistency in that final third, a missed pass, a missed dribble, trying too many things. Do you think he helps in that?
We've seen shades of that last year when he played right fullback. It's still not his strength, I think, in that final third. Although in that particular game against Philly, he was brilliant. But that just happened by occasion. I still think at the end of the day, if you go down the line, he's your best option. And let's be real honest. Kieran Gibbs coming in, another goalkeeper as well. This team keeps improving and adding players that we will see a month from now during a tough time. Summer, obviously.
We haven't even touched them. I mean, this team has so many star players. Gonzalo Higuain, do you think that he's starting to find his feet in
Talk
the
to
MLS?
us, Chris
Talk
Winningham.
to us, Chris.
Come on.
He's gonna get the theme for him has been he's always in good positions, right? I love the way actually, and we talked about him potentially being as a number 10. He's such a good creator. I mean, one of the we talked so much about his penalty decision with Victor Ulloa and the controversy around that.
Penalty, by the way.
100%. But the blind cross that he puts in for Victor Ulloa on a platter was incredible. So he's doing a lot of the things you need in order to win. He's doing them. But the finishing, it needs to be there. And this is what you pay big money for a center forward in Major League Soccer. This is what you need out of him. He had 2 clear-cut opportunities and didn't put them away. You would hope that if those same chances came again tonight, he'd bury them, but we need to see him do it.
In his defense, quite frankly, that foursome exception of Morgan on the right always changes. Sara on the left. Jay Chapman is the 10 as well. We haven't had a consistent left-sided guy outside of Robinson that gets injured, unfortunately, and would have been great, I think, on the left side as well. So providing Higuain almost comes down to Morgan most of the time. Let's see what Chapman can do today, but I agree with Chris too. Half or whole chances, by the way, he needs to vary.
I want to talk about Robbie Robinson. Obviously, picked up an injury, but you've seen the confidence shift in him. Again, coming down to a manager that's instilling belief in players. Do you think, for obviously someone like Phil coming in and instilling that in players, can he do that with these big stars and maybe help them in that finishing in that final third?
Yeah, I firmly believe so. I've worked with big stars as well. Big stars are still driven by hunger, success, and by somebody that can push them. I think Phil Neville, for what he's done in the game, is one of those guys. And if you see his demeanor in practice, the way he talks to the big group, the way he talks to the smaller group, the way he talks to individuals, the way David Beckham has taken to groups and talks to them as well.
I said you're the Dutch David Beckham, by the way.
Thank you. I talked to the group too yesterday, so I hope they respond. If not, obviously, but that's so important. You know that the coach believes in you. And what he says in his press conference and what we see in print are all the right things. If I was a player, I'd go, I like this coach. I want to play for this coach. I want to show this coach that he's right about me. I will perform. And I think that will rub off for Robbie Robinson. Let's hope he stays healthy and can get 20 or 25 games under his belt, because he's a huge talent that still needs to prove himself as the number 5 pick.
And I want to talk about the fans. We have all these fans drinking, eating in front of us. I'm like highly, highly jealous. Obviously, the stadium's starting to open back up. We're at 8,000 today, the end of the month, the 29th. It's the first sellout crowd here. I don't know about you guys, but the first game, I was in the stands watching it. Might have had a few glasses of wine. Might have. Not saying that I did.
You're right when you're not working.
Yeah, I wasn't working. All right, it was my day off. But the fans were electric in here. Could Inter Miami really create a fortress here?
Can I maybe go jump in that? I played on this field. I played in this stadium. It's a better stadium now. And I can smell the grass and the atmosphere. Chris doesn't know that he's too young. I don't know if he's ever gone to a game, but Big O and those guys who were here when the stands are vibrating, 18,000, Lockhart Stadium, which obviously is now called differently. You feed off that. And we really played for the fans more than anything else. It was a great night out. Talk about a few bevies. It was a date night out for a lot of people. Go somewhere else
Thomas,
after the game.
This isn't your dating. This isn't a dating app.
No, but I'm saying is that's what it does. That's what this when it's full, by the way, on the 29th against DC, this will be pulsating. Look at my arms. Look at my hair. Seriously.
But even talking about our supporters section, I mean, 3 different supporters group, all equally amazing in different aspects. Traveling fans. I mean, and we heard Jay Chapman in his press conference yesterday say it's such a good feeling having fans in the stands, and it adds something. And it's so hard to explain that to people because they're like, you get paid all this money to come out here and perform week in and week out. Right. But when you have the fans like you do here in Miami, it's electric.
It's like going towards the cup. Almost the second half towards the fans. The 8,000 are crammed together, going crazy with their waving flags and their fireworks. I love it. It's great. You're right. I can't wait for this whole place to be packed.
But even at 8,000, I've absolutely loved the atmosphere. And I'm a little bit sad because in our booth, we're behind the window, so you don't get to appreciate it properly. But even still,
I'll send you videos from down here.
I appreciate that. But still, like, the difference between closed doors and even like when 4,000 came in for the Orlando match last year, it was just like You need the sounds of the game to accompany what's going on. That referee took a ton of stick in that game on Sunday because the fans were on him. The fans, no, that's a penalty. And it really created that sense of urgency. I absolutely love it. And I honestly, I'm going to be stunned watching a full stadium come the 29th. It'll have been so long. It's like, my goodness, what is this like?
It feels weird. Like, I came in the stadium and I was like, this feels weird to be at a live sporting event. But hey, jumping back to Inter Miami, enough about us and how much we're like little kids on Christmas. What is your prediction for Inter Miami? Obviously, we've had 4 games, yes, injuries in and out, new coach coming in, new playing style. But do you see this team progressing into something outstanding?
Yeah, I think so. And these are long-term goals, which they don't happen overnight. They had a total shift from one coach to another in terms of culture, in terms of philosophy, in terms of training, in terms of pushing players. So that's a 10 to 12 to 14 game kind of adjustment. Quite frankly, they're so further ahead. I said 0-5 last year. They're 5 reverse plays right now, so there is an upward trajectory. We talked about the areas that they get better. Finish your chances, obviously. Don't give away cheap ones, which they do, because they've given up 5 better than last year, but still preventable goals, in my opinion. Not all of them, but some of them as well. And hope that you can, with this crowd, can get some goal scoring your way. Being at home, you're supposed to get a few goals scored your way, you know? Madrid does, and Barca, teams as well.
Throwing everyone under the bus. Chris, what about you? What most excites you about Inter Miami and what they're really starting to create at the managers level?
Well, I think you're starting to see that base being built. And now I mean, you have some reasonable expectation of what you're going to get week in, week out. I don't think we really got that last year. It was like, all right, we know what Inter Miami is, we know what their shape is, we know what they're trying to do. And actually, Phil Neville probably set out the team a certain way in preseason, and I think it's done well to recognize, well, I think our strengths are somewhere else. We got some great dribblers going forward in the attack, so allow them to roam in open space, get on the break, and we'll see as the quality increases in possession, as their ability to high press is more well coordinated, if they have kind of those extra dimensions to their game. But at the very least now, you're really starting to see a base and a foundation, which I think needed to be done after year one, in which they unfortunately weren't able to do that.
And talking about the base and the foundation, Thomas, McCarthy in net obviously has gotten that number 1 spot. Bringing in another goalkeeper in the summer transfer window, do you think he potentially is going to still fight for that, or more so as a backup here?
I think when you get depth, and if everybody's healthy, and you throw in Gibson, the new goalkeeper, competition is healthy. In training, ferocious. I've been as a player, you've been as a player, as a coach. That drives you. I don't want to lose my spot. So it's healthy for him. It's healthy for the next goalkeeper coming in. And outside of maybe a poor performance against the Galaxy, he's been pretty darn good throughout, actually. Made some 2 or 3 key saves to keep his team in certain games as well. No fault outside of the first game to John McCarthy. And you're only as good as your big 4, which has gotten better as well. I think his communication with Saunders is there. So this will be an interesting battle going forward. Who becomes your number 1 a month from now?
I want to talk, okay, we only have a couple more minutes, and we haven't even touched on young kids getting an opportunity. That was one thing that David Beckham made very known. I want this club to develop players. I want it to come from our youth systems. I want them to come up and play for their first team and get minutes when they're 16, 17, 18 years old. Obviously, we're now seeing some Inter Miami kids come through. What is your first impression and your first looks at them on the pitch?
I've always enjoyed watching Edison Escona play. I had the chance to commentate on some Fort Lauderdale CF matches last year, and him and Felipe Valencia were the players that stood out as attackers. They will grow physically in order to withstand playing in this league, but I think Phil Neville even mentioned we've got players like Ascona who are more technical and can play in between the lines and help us keep possession. He can absolutely bring a different dynamic off the bench. He just has to mature physically and also mature in terms of understanding tactics, understanding how to get the better of some very experienced defenders that he'll come up against. He's got some room to grow. We're year 2 of this, right? Like there's still, I imagine, across the road over there, some incredible prospects coming through they'll eventually see on this pitch for Inter Miami. So I think it's only the beginning, and I'm already starting to enjoy some of the positive signs that we've seen from those players.
So what you're saying is you two are coming out of retirement and trying to put your boots on for Inter Miami?
19 years old? Yes. At 64? No.
So something for someone like you, Thomas, obviously a player before, when you do have these youth kids coming in, what's the one thing that you can do as a senior player in order just to make it a little bit more comfortable for them?
Yeah, I mean, I had Carlos Valderrama that put his arm around Stevie Ralston, became the Rookie of the Year. I had Marco Etcheverry taking Ben Olsen, the Rookie of the Year, winning his MLS Cup, which, by the way, I'm wearing that ring right now, 99.
It's not trying to rub. I didn't bring my Olympic bronze, but I will next week, okay?
That was Olympic bronze. This is white goal, by the way, with diamonds.
We're really throwing Chris under the bus now.
I always enjoy it on a big occasion. I know it's a big occasion when TR
Well,
is
with
wearing
TR.
MLS colors. Big occasion. Oh, yeah. Those shorts, by the way, are fantastic.
Where's your pink, by the way? Oh, on your shoes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're all rocking pink. Okay, going back to your point. I love it. Go back to your point, Thomas. Sorry for cutting you off there.
It's always great when all the players take a vested interest. Sometimes it needs to be guided by a coach, but a lot of times it comes naturally. It came naturally with Valderrama, Marco Echeverri. I think it becomes natural, although the body language of Higuain sometimes is a little bit aggressive, but towards the younger players, he seems to have more patience than towards Pizarro, for instance. Morgan, once in a while, the thing goes off and well done, and they talk at the water break and stuff like that. Huge. You know that, Kalen, when you come through as a young player, nice to have a veteran player.
They're your idols. You grew up watching them.
Absolutely. To say, hey, do the following.
And I think that's one of the best things about the MLS. We're really seeing the growth of MLS. We're seeing the new teams come in, the expansion teams, the money behind it, the celebrities behind it. And I know it's not about the celebrities, but it's these big people with big bank accounts that are investing and taking the time to be out there. You look at David Beckham. He has not missed a home game. Obviously, last year was tough due to the pandemic. He had to travel home a lot, stuck obviously in Europe, and he hasn't missed a home match yet.
The biggest reason that this club is going this way. He's invested. He's here every day with Chris Henderson, by the way, which was his choice as well. And Phil Neville. And it's brilliant. The big man is there. I've been there and done that with owners are on the field, not just on game day, but also in practice and take their time. That is important to set the tone, which Beckham did this year and not last year.
Way more important to me that he's on that training pitch every day than when he's up there with Mark Anthony. We love when he's up there with Mark Anthony. I'm not trying to.
I was loving it.
I'm not trying to criticize that whatsoever. But he is involved. I mean, I saw we were at the training ground yesterday. He's got 6 or 7 players gathered around him, and he's imparting a bit of advice or two. Just that involvement is absolutely fundamental. And I'm sure, it's not like, for example, it could be a situation where the owner is looking over the shoulder of the manager. We know that Phil Neville and David Beckham are in an incredible spot. TR wants to take it.
Phil,
Oh,
look at that! You all are your feet, baby. Right, Morgan, right now. Secondary is PR.
Love David Beckham's involvement in the club. I'm sure it's been absolutely massively positive on the training ground every day.
I promise you guys on social media, when you get me and TR together, it ends up turning into whatever. We don't even, I can't even say it. And this is our, you're not even that common, so never mind. Oh, you guys is tradition.
Because I would absolutely been taking those same touches.
But we need to create our small side. I want to ask you a prediction. You had a crystal ball today. Who are you going for?
You put him on the spot. That's a tough one. I mean, I like to think we should be favored at home. But this is Montreal's home as well. So is there such a thing as home field advantage? It's been here a while. So the weather is cool. So there's no LA. I want to see a good game. I want to see continued improvement as a team and in the areas that we just talked about. That could be the keys to success and the keys to the game, quite frankly. If they execute that, I think they have a very good chance of getting 3 points today and go into first place, baby.
That sounds like us sitting on the white fence. What about you? What's your prediction?
Going for a win. Miami, 3 goals to 1. I'm just looking at the
3 goals to 1. I love that.
I'm looking at the lineup.
Yeah.
4 changes for Montreal. No Victor Wanyama, not even in the 20. So without Victor Wanyama, without Mason Toy, who's kind of been the leader of their attack when they've done well, he's been out for the last 2 matches with a calf strain. Without those 2 key figures, Inter Miami has to pick up the dub today.
Yeah, I'm going Inter Miami. I'm actually, who's the scores for you?
Okay, so I
Let's make this really interesting.
Higuain gets on the score sheet.
Which one?
Gonzalo. Okay. Gonzalo gets on the score sheet. Lewis Morgan gets on the score sheet.
We're getting pelted.
And I'll go
on a set piece with LGP.
Ryan Shawcross.
On a set piece.
Ryan Shawcross from ahead.
I'm gonna go 2-1. I do think Montreal are gonna break on the counterattack because Inter Miami just aren't there yet defensively.
Okay.
They're getting there for sure. With Kioa and Shea back there, it's just obviously goal scorers. I am going. I'm gonna go Chapman.
Okay.
Canada.
Ooh,
Playing against the Canadian team. Come on, Jay, you got to do this for me. And then I'm gonna go Higuain. I think he's just growing, and you're starting to see it.
1-0, 25th minute.
Wow. There we go.
Calling a shot.
From Honduras, Chris. There you go. From Honduras, 1-1. Higuain 2-1 in the 80th minute, and then the header from LGP, 92nd minute to make it 3-1.
Wow.
Ooh, What are we putting on this? Actually, no, let's just save that because I know it's going to be alcohol. We can't talk about that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the pre-game show with myself, Taylor Powell, Chris Whittingham, Thomas Wrongen. We're all in pink. We're hoping for another Inter-Miami win. And again, it's a beautiful night here in South Florida. Overcast, a little breeze, a little bit of rain. And let's just take this in. I mean, players are literally just going off the pitch now. That was the best part as a player. When your warm-up's done, you're going into the tunnel, you're walking
And
by.
by the way, give us a little shout out. He's going to call the radio. I'm doing the going upstairs.
I'm not even done giving I was just talking about the tunnel and I've gotten interrupted. They're on our radio. They're your voice of the radio, and honestly, some of the best in the biz. I'm not going to lie. I worked with both of them.
We can find you on this very same app. If you're watching on the Inter Miami app right now, Kayla Powell on the sidelines, Drake Cordero, Ray Hudson in the commentary. Both check them out as well.
I love it. Awesome. We're all each other's
synergy. Big O, Dono, and El Presidente Fiore waiting for us upstairs.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the match.
Ciao, ciao.
Go time at AutoNation. Every car and truck is priced to go. Go shop your favorite vehicles now. Drive with amazing low payments or go with low prices on new cars and trucks. Plus, every vehicle we sell is sanitized.
What are you waiting for? Let's go.
Go to AutoNation now or shop AutoNation.com.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
No matter what you drive, you can turn it into cash now at AutoNation. It's as easy as A, B, C. Any AutoNation store, bring in your car, check on the spot. It's that simple. We'll buy your car whether you buy ours or not. You'll get a top dollar offer in as fast as 30 minutes and a check you can deposit right away. Sell your car fast and safely at over 300 AutoNation stores or AutoNation.com.
Today tastes like a fresh start, like a hot spot. Tastes like a head in the clouds, and like 2 feet off the ground. Today tastes like a Sunday ritual, and it never tasted this good.